I have to go to the bank again to get some change.
Okay, hold on. It seems like you've been doing that an awful lot lately. Most of our customers don't even use cash. Why do we need so much change?
It might be that laundromat that just moved in next door. People have been asking for a lot of quarters.
Okay, we're not going to make change anymore for people who aren't customers. How are we supposed to make a profit that way?
Volume?
Welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Bob.
I'm Rob.
And we love movies. Good ones, bad ones, old ones, new ones, cheap movies, expensive movies, and everything in between.
That's true.
Yeah. So, you've heard me talk about this before, Rob, but I'm going to bring it up again. There are few operations that are as profitable as running a video store.
It's money in the bank.
It is. It really is. You know, we charge a modest price to rent a film.
Yeah.
What's the cost for a new release these days? What, $4.99? Something like that?
A night? Yeah.
A night, yeah. Right, yeah.
Or for 2 nights.
Yeah.
Me.
Until people bring
That
it back.
sounds about
Yeah,
right.
we're just charging
$4.99,
a little bit of money. So people come in every day. They take home a movie to rent in exchange for a few bucks.
We're a pillar of the neighborhood community. Let's just put it that way.
I agree.
You know, it goes 2 ways.
Foolproof business, recession-proof, future-proof. And because of the steady flow of revenue that our bulletproof business model provides, we decided to devote a theme centered around our guaranteed financial success.
Yes.
Right? It's been a long time coming.
Yes, we deserve this.
Yeah, a toast to us, so to speak. As our customers know, you and I have the noble task of curating the beloved staff recommendation shelf here at Rewind Video. Each time we update the shelf with new movies, we adhere to a theme, and this week's theme is money.
The cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Every single one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, so I almost feel like it's a little bit mind-boggling that we haven't hit this topic earlier, because so many movies have a...
There's a money component.
There's a money component.
Yeah, there's so many. It turns out money movies are often crime movies, which I realized after I had chosen all of my movies.
Yeah, people like to steal money.
Yes. People love to steal money. It's a great thing to have in a movie to steal. It's a great motivator for you to do bad things.
Yeah. And, you know, I find it interesting how when we watch movies involving people stealing money, almost always we're rooting for the thieves. You know?
A lot of time, yes.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yes.
And it's not like, well, the do-gooders who are just making the money aren't the ones that we're actually in the corner of.
Of course, it's not always crime, though. That just happens to be what I chose with mine. But it all often leads to crime.
Yeah. There's some crime in all of my movies, you know?
It is the root of all evil.
It
money
is. Yeah. So I'm sure there's some money movies out there where it's just like good people making money for a living and spending it wisely, but we did not focus on that.
Yeah, there's not many movies that are about people getting money legitimately and then spending it responsibly. There's just not a lot of those movies that exist.
Doesn't make a good story, I don't think. But who knows? Maybe we'll find something like that in the future. But yeah, I think our films this week, as always, make for an entertaining watch, especially when, you know, crime involving money involves some jokes or some high stake heists, which you know, there's some of that here. So yeah, I'm excited to delve into these. Do you want to kick us off as you always do?
I sure will. I'm going to start us off with something fairly new from 2024. It is The Beekeeper.
The Beekeeper.
The Beekeeper.
We're going back to the Jason Statham well.
Yes, we are. This is directed by David Ayer, who did Suicide Squad, the bad one.
Oh, not the good one.
The one with not the in it or whatever.
Okay.
End of Watch and Bright, which was that Will Smith movie.
Oh, he did End of Watch too?
Yeah, so he had a kind of a weird career.
Yeah.
This is also written by Kurt Wimmer, who we'll come back to again in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the B movies section of the store. I'm sorry. I could not do that.
How can you not?
Other movies in that section are B movie
Right.
and Nick Cage's The Wicker Man.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
Here's the back of the box to The Beekeeper. One man's campaign for vengeance takes on national stakes after he is revealed to be a former operative of a powerful and clandestine organization known as Beekeepers. Tagline, expose the corruption, protect the hive.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah. Not such a great tagline, but
Not a
indeed-
bad tagline.
Not a bad
Yeah.
tagline, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
we'll leave it alone.
protect the hive.
Right.
So in the 90s, we had the Die Hard on a Blank movies. Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard on a bus in an airport, Die Hard on a boat.
Yeah.
In the last decade, we've had another mini genre, which is basically John Wick but a blank, right? So we've had like John Wick but an old man, John Wick but a Russian spy, John Wick but Bob Odenkirk. This is John Wick but a beekeeper.
Right.
And yes, he's an actual beekeeper.
He does. He keeps bees.
He's tending hives. He's caring for the land. He's jarring honey, which looks good as fuck.
Does. Yeah.
He works hard for that honey. But he's also a, quote, beekeeper, which means he's part of the deadliest assassination organization in the world.
Yeah.
Question mark?
I have so many questions about this organization, none of which are answered by the movie.
Details are very murky about the beekeepers.
Right.
They operate independently of the U.S. government.
Yes.
It seems like.
Yeah.
But they also exist to protect the United States specifically. Right?
Yes.
That is the hive that we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
But also maybe just like the government itself. They're like protecting the government and the country, but they don't work for anybody. Nobody. So like who controls them? It's completely unclear. They might not even be an organization so much as maybe a creed, like something you're born into.
Potentially.
Which they don't really get into.
Yeah.
But it's a possibility. At times, it seems like there's only one beekeeper at a time. But there's also like a beekeeper dispatch center that's like answering phones at all times. And constantly, on the go. So like, who knows how this whole thing's being run.
Yeah.
But eventually the beekeeper organization just decides to stay out of this whole thing. They're just like, no, fuck it, we're out. Because Jason Statham, they're afraid of him.
Yeah.
And so is he the greatest beekeeper of all time that even the beekeepers are like, we can't fuck with him?
I don't know because, first of all, I love that Jason Statham has entered a stage in his career where he's a retired something and he is being summoned out of retirement.
Yes.
In this case, he's not in drinking retirement. He, in fact, abstains from drinking.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Which is a bold move for Jason Statham character.
He's decided to tend bees. So like, do retired beekeepers do that? Is that like a thing that they do? Or is that like something that is instilled in them so deeply that like maybe when they're being raised as a beekeeper as a child, they learn to tend bees?
All good questions.
Just to internalize all of that.
I wondered these too because we meet another beekeeper at a certain point in the movie, and she does not seem like she keeps bees.
You're right. Because like if you're like the beekeeper and it's your job to go anywhere in the world presumably and kill anybody at hand-to-hand combat.
Right.
You cannot be keeping bees at the same time.
No.
So but like you can't be like the active beekeeper for very long. So like maybe you're like, can you just tend my hive while I'm doing this for 6 months? Because you can't be full time all the time, right?
It does seem like Jason Statham has leaned into this role even in retirement, and while he's maybe not doing the job anymore, he's still being the beekeeper.
Is he though? Like
I don't know.
What does the beekeeper do?
Well, I mean beekeeper in terms of like he's just keeping bees.
He's keeping bees. Yeah. See, like it's kind of confusing that way. But the movie's not interested at all in like clearing that up.
No,
which is part of its charm.
This movie for me lives somewhere between the ridiculousness of Wanted, which you brought to the show for never watched this movie, and the grounded reality of like the Jason Bourne movies.
Yeah, I could see what you're going for there.
Like part of an organization, Deadly Assassin. With the Bourne movies, we have a clear sense of that organization's role. With Wanted,
I obviously love this. Like, I like this movie way more than Wanted.
Oh, 100%.
Which is
100%.
I hate more than almost any movie
right.
out there. I think I might like it more than the Bourne movies.
Oh, really?
I don't dislike the Bourne movies. They just never quite like really connected with me.
I gotcha.
You know? Maybe I should go back and check them out again. But,
Maybe.
So the incident that causes Jason Statham in The Beekeeper to fly off the handle is his landlord, who is played by Felicia Rashad, gets taken by an online phishing scam for $2 million.
Right.
And it's not even her money. It belongs to a charity that she is the trustee for. And they send her to friendlyfriends.net,
Right.
which I encourage our audience to visit. Yes. And she puts all of her information in, and they bleed her accounts dry. They take $2 million from this charity and whatever money she has. And she's so upset about it that she commits suicide.
Right.
Immediately.
Yeah, waste no
Just
time.
like, she doesn't,
She's not going to call anyone and say...
doesn't double check to make sure the money's actually missing. She's just like, well, this seems like a good excuse.
I have to end it all. Yes.
So I think there might be something else going on there.
Potentially.
I don't want to like speculate too hard about it, but like she was like pretty eager to like just end it. She's like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's I had it. And meanwhile, she was like in the middle of cooking dinner for Jason Statham when she decided to like shoot herself in the head, I guess.
Yeah, because he shows up and the smoke alarm's going off. So she had started dinner and then she was like, never mind.
I'm not even going to bother turning the oven off. I don't give a fuck anymore. So this, of course, sends Jason Statham on a murderous rampage.
Yeah.
And he's going to take revenge on these people that took her money. And he obviously takes elder abuse very seriously.
Oh, extremely.
Like,
more so than child abuse. And he even explains that.
Yeah, he is genuinely outraged at what has happened. And that was like something I wasn't expecting.
No.
Like this movie is like taking a stance.
It is.
It's like if you rip off old people, like we're coming to get you.
Yeah. Which raises questions to me about the story behind the writer, which you said you'd get into, and maybe these things are disconnected. But I wasn't really gonna. We're gonna get into him in a minute. Just like you want to mention him later. But yeah, I don't really know. Like he's written a lot of like schlock. Like, that's what this guy. This guy is like. He probably like heard about an old person getting ripped off and was like, sure, I'll throw that into my story. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he writes a lot of just like junk that seems to work in certain situations. But this movie is like such a perfect mix of awesome and stupid, right? Like that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're just like one of my favorite examples is the call center where all this is going on. It's like it's basically a combination of frat house and casino.
yes.
Like the guy pulling the scam on Felicia Rashad he's putting on a presentation for everybody in the call center. It's like he's introducing a new iPhone.
Yes.
You know, and like, and there's literally slot machine noises going off while they're like ripping people off, like the cha-ching noise. When they start taking her money, it really goes like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Like, yeah, we got her.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so ridiculous, but it's, at the same time, you're just like, I kind of can't wait for him to like fuck these people up.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, just like dumb shit. Like at what point Felicia Rashad's daughter says to Jason Statham, like, I noticed some British Isles hiding in your accent. It's like, what are you hiding?
Yeah. This man is British.
Yeah. Like the movie just doesn't give a fuck. It's just like, whatever. But it's also all in on bees.
It could be more all in, but you go ahead.
Well, every scene is shot with yellow filters on the lights, like complete yellow filters on everything. Everything's yellow, black. It's just like, it's just going for that, like that bee look. But also the characters are constantly using bees or beehives as metaphors for everything that's happening and everybody around them.
Yeah.
And it's hard, like to the point where it's hard to tell if they're talking like literally about the Beekeeper organization or the government, or like metaphorically about just like the situation. Like they just mesh it all together, and they're just constantly talking about like the hive and the queen bee and the queen slayers and the worker bees and the drones. And they don't, and like it's hard to even tell there's not even it's definitely not they're not punning anything. There's no puns.
No,
it's literally just like, well, we gotta like protect the hive and we gotta like take down the queen bee and like all this shit.
It takes itself rather seriously as it relates to bees.
Yes, and like the actual bees, of course. Yes, it takes the bees very seriously, and that's one. And I was kind of upset that the bees didn't like factor into the later parts of the movie.
Oh, Rob, I was waiting for the moment where Jason Statham is in a dire situation, and we actually see that in the third act of the movie, and he summons the bees.
Because why make him an actual beekeeper unless he uses the bees, or like they drown somebody in honey? Maybe I think that could work.
Yeah.
And then like they preserve him and he comes back in a later movie. I don't know. They could have made it part of the resolution to the story, and like, spoiler alert, the bees don't come back and get revenge.
No.
Jason Statham does though.
He sure does.
The action's I think pretty great.
I think it's pretty good. You brought up John Wick as we are now in the John Wick but a phase of action movies, and it leaves something to be desired compared to the precedent that the John Wick movies have set with how action is filmed and stunt work and stuff like that.
This is definitely a step below the John Wick movies.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as that like second level down, I think this is right up there.
Yeah.
With some recent stuff. I mean, Jason Statham is just as dependable as it gets for this type of movie.
He doesn't disappoint.
This is pretty bloody. Like a guy gets chopped in half by an elevator. There's a great fight between Statham and a one-legged Australian, I think, maybe New Zealand guy who's just seems like a fucking maniac. But like that's a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
It's real violent. It's real good. Like if that's what you're looking for, yes. And if you want to see like a bunch of bee shit, there's a bunch of bee shit. So the Beekeeper, it's rated 2.7 overall on Letterboxd, which is way, way too low in my opinion.
Oh, yeah?
That's way too low.
I would say it's a hair low for me.
If this movie had come out in 1997, and its Letterboxd score would be like 3.5. You know what I mean? Like if this was a 1990 something movie, like in the era of like Under Siege or something, this movie it would be rated much higher. But that'll go up over the years. I think.
Okay.
179 people have it in their 4 favorites, and only 11% agree with my 4-star rating, which I did kick it up to 4 stars in this rewatch. Because like, there's no way I'm not going to return to this again.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to sequels. I want this.
So you're choosing this over like Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk movie, and perhaps even some of the John Wicks?
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to like start ranking stuff, but I'm definitely going to go back to it. Yeah.
Okay.
If I like, sometimes you just want like a dumb Jason Statham movie. That's going to have some like fun bee lines.
There are no shortage of dumb Jason Statham movies.
I think this is one of the better ones.
Yeah. For me, this is a rock solid 3-star movie.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
And no, nothing wrong with that at all. I did not expect to find it as entertaining as I did, because this had been recommended to me for a while by exclusively parents. So
part of the problem is you've reached an age now where most of the people you know are parents.
Right.
So maybe that's part of the problem.
I'm thinking of people that are like my parents, who I guess had like stumbled across this when it was on some streaming service, and are vaguely aware of the John Wick movies, and then saw this and we're like, wow, Jason Statham, and he's fun. But I'll probably watch this again, maybe when a sequel comes out. Mm-hmm. But it might be firmly entrenched in the 3-star territory for me. But who knows?
Yeah, you have a different way of judging things. I suppose. That's why we do the show.
Yeah, that is why we.
That's why we each pick movies for the staff recommendation shelf.
I do think this is worth people watching, though.
Definitely,
it's fun.
Letterboxd user Heather Santris agrees with my 4-star rating, and her review says, I knew beekeeping is badass, but damn. So I'm kicking off the staff recommendations this week with The Beekeeper for the topic of money.
I'm going to give this movie credit for one thing that I love anytime it shows up in an action movie. And it's when somebody, for some reason, pulls out what is clearly a secret and high-powered phone with like we're in 2024, but like somebody for some reason needs to pull out a phone with a big antenna on it. And we get a little bit of that. And it's like, you're supposed to see this phone as like, okay, this person's calling someone important. No one else can listen in. And this is the only way that person can be reached with this secret phone.
Secret phone, the satellite phone.
Love it. Yeah. Great choice. Beekeeper on the shelf. Old people getting their money taken.
That's right.
All right. I'm going to take us just 1 year earlier with my first pick. 2023, and I'm going with Dumb Money. We keep this among our various Robin Hood films, right between Prince of Thieves and Men in Tights.
Excellent.
Yeah, so this is based on a true story. I'm going to give you the back of the box. Dumb Money chronicles the incredible events of the 2021 GameStop stock surge, where everyday investors and online communities took on the billion-dollar hedge funds that had bet against the stock. Led by one determined investor, this group of underdogs took on Wall Street's elite, flipping the financial system upside down, at least for a moment. Tagline here, when Wall Street rigged the game, he changed it.
I'll take it.
It's fine. Yeah. So, do you remember when this happened?
I do remember when it happened. I did not pay much attention to this story when it was happening. I remember it was going on, going like, whatever, I'm not getting involved. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I remember scanning the headlines, but not really paying attention to anything that was really going on.
So I was maybe a little bit more tuned into this than most people. One, because I grew up going to GameStop.
Yeah.
And two, because I spend a lot of time on Reddit, even today. And so the way this all transpired is there's a subreddit devoted to trading stocks for everyday people called Wall Street Bets. And it's a rather crude online community, but it's where people that are not part of massive hedge funds can talk amongst themselves about stocks worthy of investing. And there was one guy in particular who in this movie is played by Paul Dano, and his name was Keith Gill, who for one reason or another fell in love with the GameStop stock, and he had enough clout in this online community that people really took to his recommendation and started following him on the investment. And it happened to be at a time when hedge funds were betting on this company to fail, and they would make a bunch of money if it did.
It was like a viral recommendation. This guy wasn't like a big deal when it happened, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. And he
just built up a following as this was going on.
Yeah. And he had a unique online persona that, was charming, and, he seemed like a person of the people. And I think that certainly helped his cause in terms of getting people to rally around this stock. But sure enough people bought in. The stock started rising dramatically, and all of these everyday investors started to make a ton of money. And then that community grew and grew and grew. And this was right at the time when the Robin Hood stock buying application was kind of taking off, and that's how people were buying the stock.
And the stimulus checks, so everybody had an extra $1,200 that they were like, well, this came from nowhere, so let me just throw it in the stock market.
This movie tells a story that happened during the pandemic, and it's very aware of that. And we haven't seen a lot of films that deal with that period of time, and it's interesting to look back on. It's interesting to see the world that we have just exited and be reminded of just how crazy it was for a minute. And I loved in particular the fact that GameStop managed to stay open during the pandemic because they were selling computer mice, which people needed in order to be online
to
and
have
work
a home
from
office. Yeah.
So it's a very interesting story that I'd never invested in GameStop. I saw a lot of this unfolding and thought, oh boy, seems fun for everyone involved, but I never invested. Yeah.
I guess how closely does this stick to reality? Because from what I understand is
very closely.
But from what I understand is eventually it just got it's not like GameStop is still worth a bunch of money, right? All these people, a bunch of people sold and.
Yeah, a bunch of people sold largely because the app that everyone was using, the Robinhood app, halted buying and selling.
Yeah.
And
like the way the market reacted to this, and like the way the regulatory agencies reacted to it, and the way that like some of the big money players in this thing, everything, the way it all like worked out is like they kind of like devised a system to make sure this would never happen again.
Right.
Which is not really like good.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
they just
terrible.
insulated themselves from this ever happening again. And I feel like the movie kind of like glosses over that. They're like, we won.
Yes.
You know, it's like, well, yeah, like you cashed just one lottery ticket, and they basically changed the rules so you can never win it again.
And that gets to why the movie is called Dumb Money, because all of this money that is circulating from people who are not part of the wealthy hedge funds is referred to as dumb money by those who know better. And in this case, the people who know better did indeed rig the system so that dumb money never came and bit them in the ass.
Like a couple guys got wiped out. A couple of these like rich guys got wiped out, and they're like, well, we lose a couple every now and again.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Exactly.
like I don't know, like I think that was like the lesson was like, yeah, you can get them sometimes, but
right,
you know,
yeah, it's a very frustrating story to watch. And what I like about this, and the reason that I chose it, is because it tells a David and Goliath story where David is represented by this huge community of people, and you can't help but root for the normal folks that are like getting in on something that they're never invited to and never usually allowed to participate in, at least at the level of profitability that
you know why it didn't, like, you know why that part of it didn't 100% land for me?
Why?
Because you see like this person who put in like $10,000 and now they're worth $250,000 or whatever. Because you look at it and you're like, well, that's not even real, right?
Yes.
Because like, first of all, every stock value is fake.
Yeah, it's all invisible money. It's not
you know,
tangible.
you see a company, about like the Tesla is like the most valuable car company in the world, and their sales are like a tenth of what Ford's are or something like that. You know, it's like it's all just made up bullshit.
Yeah.
So it's fake money anyway, but it's based on them all not selling, right?
Yeah.
So like the idea is we're going to keep holding until this guy like cashes out or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. Like I feel like it's like you're just even if you do this correctly and like you wipe him out, you're still perpetuating a system where it's like, hey, we can make a bunch of money off of this company that like barely exists.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I almost feel like that's a valid criticism, and a valid criticism of the stock market in general.
Yeah.
Because while all of these people are investing together, as soon as one pulls out, it hurts the other person that's alongside you, quote unquote, alongside you investing in GameStop. So either they all pull out at the same time, or they all hold indefinitely, and maybe it goes to who knows.
You know, it's like So like the smart move for a lot of these people is to like cash out when everybody else is holding.
Yes,
but like then you're not doing what everybody else is. So like I don't know.
You're right, and I think that's again what I find fascinating about this is this incredible movement among this community to stay resilient and in spite of the allure of profit, somehow hold because they all knew they were fucking the man. Yeah. And you know how effective that was, obviously suspect, but it was an incredible moment in time, and definitely something that has changed Wall Street for, you know, they can no longer ignore these movements. And they talk about that a little bit at the end of the movie, that this has, you know, transpired in something of a sea change in the world of stock investing.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a moment in time.
Yes. So just quickly, I want to mention some of the people that are in this, because there's a pretty impressive cast, and I think all of them play their parts really well. We get Paul Dano again as Keith Gill, who's the investor. Seth Rogen plays one of the hedge fund managers who's kind of caught up in this and sees his profits just plummet,
just disappear.
Yeah, but Pete Davidson is here. He plays Kevin Gill's brother, America Ferrera, Vincent D'Onofrio. Nick Offerman's here.
Yeah.
They're all good, you know? And Nick Offerman does a great job. Vincent D'Onofrio and Nick Offerman do a great job of playing rich people that you can't help but despise. You know?
Like they bring it barely up above a 5.
Yeah.
They're just like, I'm just like a rich guy that
Yeah.
gives you this energy.
Yeah. I live on a resort during the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost $10 million the last
Whatever.
5 minutes. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. So this was well received for a relatively entertaining take on a very complex financial story and definitely a sharp satire of the hedge fund culture. It did $30 million on a $12 million budget, which is pretty solid, and has a average Letterboxd rating of 3.6 out of 5. I have this at a 4-star movie. This, for me, is very similar to The Big Short, which gives an everyday person an easy way to understand something that otherwise would be very difficult to wrap their head around. Craig Gillespie, the guy who directed this, also did I, Tonya, which we've had on the show before. But I did pluck a review by Dakota Joaquin, who said, "I hate living in the universe where millionaire elites are making movies about raging against millionaire elites."
Yeah.
Which is a poignant observation. But nevertheless, it's going on the shelf. It's my first pick for Money. Dumb Money.
I've got this at 3 stars right now. It wasn't quite as compelling as something like Blackberry. I think it just wasn't like the characters didn't quite land for me in the same way. They weren't quite as like, there's a lot of characters here that were kind of like surface level explored. But this is like, again, this is like a reverse from the Beekeeper. Rock solid 3-star movie.
Yeah.
I can see this going up to 4 one day though. It's a fun watch.
It is a fun watch. Yeah. But you make a good observation. It's part of this trend we're seeing of movies that are telling stories about products or, I don't know, recent history that feels very relatable, and we can look back at this and be like, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take us to the 90s, one of our favorite decades. Movie I'm choosing is Set It Off.
Set It Off.
Set It Off.
Lady Thieves.
Exactly. This is directed by F. Gary Gray, who did the Italian Job, Fast and Furious 8.
Oh, he's got a hand in the Fast and the Furious
he
franchise.
did one of those. He also made Friday. That was his first movie, I'm pretty sure. This is his second. He's been on the shelf before. He directed Law Abiding Citizen, which was written by Kurt Wimmer.
Oh!
Bringing him back.
Full circle.
Who wrote The Beekeeper, of course. This was not written by him. Just wanted to bring that up. Just wanted to tie everything together. This is filed under Squad Goals.
Oh, I like that.
Back of the box, 4 inner-city black women determined to end their constant struggle decide to live by one rule: get what you want or die trying. So the 4 women take back their lives and take out some banks in the process. Tagline: it's about crime. It's about payback. It's about survival.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like the back of the box or the tagline there. It doesn't really get to the gist of it. This stars Vivica A. Fox, Jada Pinkett, Queen Latifah, and Kimberly Elise, who all work for a janitorial company cleaning office buildings.
Sure.
So like these women are not criminals, except for maybe like Queen Latifah's character. Maybe she kind of like
dabbles.
Yeah, she's been arrested a couple times for some bullshit. You know?
Yeah.
But they've all found themselves in bad situations, and like Jada needs money to send her brother to college. Kimberly Elise needs to get her kid back from CPS because like some straight up bullshit. Vivica A. Fox just got fired from her job at a bank.
Right.
Because like she kind of knew the guy that robbed it.
Right.
And so like that gives them the idea to rob this bank. But really like the movie takes its time to give each character a backstory for like why they decide to rob this bank.
Yeah.
Like these people they're not thieves. They're not violent.
Yeah.
You know, but like, why would they just decide to rob a bank? Well, this movie tells you. It might take a little long to get there.
It does.
You know, it's like it's 35 minutes into the movie before anybody mentions like robbing a bank.
Yeah.
So, you know, it definitely gets into it.
This is the opposite of The Beekeeper, which wastes absolutely no time getting us into action.
Yeah, we are directly into beekeeping as soon as the movie starts.
Yes.
But that being said, it's a nice change of pace from a typical heist movie. This like actually delves into like the emotional motivations, like more than just the mechanics of these bank robberies.
Yeah.
They're all coworkers, they're friends, and so like they've known each other forever. They're together all the time. They have a chemistry, like they care about each other.
And I think you can feel that chemistry. I think they do a good job of making these women feel like a tight-knit group.
It's not a team of hardened criminals. They're assembled to pull off a really tough job. You know, it's just like a bunch of friends that are like, you know what we should do?
Yeah,
we should rob a bank.
Yeah.
And then they actually do it.
Yeah.
So that's a perspective you don't get in this genre.
No, it's not. It's funny because we both have movies tonight where non-criminals are stealing money. Yeah. But while I was watching this, I couldn't help but think about Heat, which is very different in the sense that it's got professional thieves stealing things versus the cops who are trying to stop them. And here, you know, it's a very different vibe because, like you said, these are not professional thieves.
No. And that's another LA movie.
Yeah.
So there are two LA movies. And I don't know if you know this about like I think the late 80s, early 90s. Los Angeles was averaging like 5 bank robberies a day, like something insane, like
I did not know that.
Insane fucking number.
Wow.
And so like that's why like a bank robbery movie in Los Angeles is just like, yeah, fuck yeah. So
course,
I mean,
it
was
like
just,
a documentary.
it was happening at like such an insane rate.
Yeah.
That like so it was like, yeah, of course, like four janitors are like, yeah, let's rob these banks. Like that probably was happening.
Yeah.
It was happening so often back then. But yeah, you don't see like 4 black women who are friends going like, hey, let's rob a bank. Like it's always like Robert De Niro and, you know, his gangster buddies are like, we got to like come up with this plan and blow apart the walls.
Yeah, of course.
Or family.
Right.
This reminded me a little bit of Falling Down in a way though, how it touches on some like, I would say some like heavy themes, but it doesn't really hit them that hard.
No, it flirts with them.
It's like, yeah, like these women are going through some shit, but like, yeah, we're gonna get to bank robbing eventually.
It's so funny because that's another movie that I thought of while watching this, but for a different reason. I thought maybe this takes place in the same universe as Falling Down, where the cops in Falling Down are too distracted with real bank robberies to actually pay much attention to Michael Douglas.
Maybe that's what was going on.
Yeah.
So like, we got to deal with 8 bank robberies.
Yeah, come on.
So Set It Off is 3.7 overall in Letterboxd.
That feels about right.
Yeah, probably about right. 266 users have it in their 4 favorites. 16% agree with my 3-star rating.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite up to 4 stars for me. I've only seen it this one time. I look forward to going back to it one day. Maybe I'll kick it up another star.
Yeah.
But for now, it's 3. User that agrees with my 3-star rating is ad_Kessler, who says, you simply can't ignore the fact that these women set it off.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's right there. It's very present.
So I'm putting Set It Off on the staff recommendation shelf this week for the topic of money.
Yeah, this is a 3-star movie for me, too. I wished it were a little more efficient with its storytelling. And maybe that has to do with what you pointed out, how long we have to wait before the setting it off.
There's definitely a hangout element with the ladies.
Yeah. But it's good. I mean, I'd hang out with these ladies.
Oh, 100%. A good time.
And so for the theme of money, you're choosing this because it's really delving into the motivations behind why these women are stealing money, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. I liked it. I was I had never watched it. I was aware of this, but I did not think that this is what it was about.
Yeah.
I thought Set It Off was a bomb movie.
Maybe it should have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got the ending is a little bit of a downer.
Yeah.
But that's life. That's life when you're robbing banks.
Well, let's do another movie where the ending is a downer. I'm going to bring my second movie to the table, and this is from 1983. And the movie is L'Argent, which is from the Funny Money, Unfunny Movies section of the store. Back of the box synopsis: L'Argent, a counterfeit 500 franc note, changes hands in a series of fateful exchanges, setting off a devastating chain of events that will ruin lives and lead to shocking consequences. Directed by the legendary Robert Bresson, this French drama explores the destructive power of money and how it transforms everyone it touches. So, this was recommended to me by a customer, and it seemed like such a great fit for this theme, because what was described to me, which we definitely get at the beginning of this movie, is you're following a counterfeit banknote that changes hands between several people until it ends up with somebody who is caught with it. And then we see some kind of tragic consequences to that person being in possession of this money, which I was astonished by the French legal system and how quick they were to just pin all the blame on this dude who did not want to have counterfeit money and was caught with it. And like, he was like, nah, I got it from them. And,
they said that they're like, no, it wasn't us. Or like, they said it wasn't them.
Yeah, you're going down, my friend. So
I guess I didn't even clock that. They were just like, man, what are you going to do? They said it wasn't them, so it has to be you.
Must be your fault.
Guilty.
Yeah. So this is an adaptation of a Leo Tolstoy story called The Forged Coupon. And yeah, it does give us a little bit of that, just following a bill as it changes hands. I would have actually enjoyed a movie where that's all we get. Now, I don't know how compelling that would have been, but
are you familiar with the movie 20 Bucks?
No.
Came out, I think, in the 90s. I don't know if it was based on this or if it was inspired by this, but I think that was kind of the idea. It was like a $20 bill that passed from person to person, and you kind of like followed that person for however long they had that $20 bill.
Love that.
I remember seeing it back when it came out, but I don't think I've seen it since.
I'd be interested in checking that out, because that was what I was really excited about with this, and we definitely get it. But once we settle on the guy who has inherited this bill and is caught with it, it largely becomes his story, and his story is unpleasant because
that premise is like doesn't last too long.
Does not last too long. It's maybe like the first 20, 30 minutes of the film. But yeah, we see this guy who is a utility worker of some sort and leading an honest life, but once he goes to prison and has to deal with life in the
clink.
It changes him dramatically, and once he's out, things go very far south. I won't spoil the ending for people, but it is an unpleasant end, and he makes some disappointing choices. But yeah, I feel like this fits the theme because it definitely depicts money as this contagious force that
money caused all these
problems, even if it wasn't real money.
Yeah.
And
what is money? Like that's what what is money?
Right. Right.
Money, this quote fake money was being exchanged for goods and services.
For goods and services.
The whole first part of the movie, and that's what money's for. So I don't know what's money.
Yeah, it made me wonder, how, if money is doing its job, does it matter if it's not real?
Money isn't real.
Right. We've assigned value to it.
We have value. We give value to it. Even people who are like, I'll invest in gold. And like, who cares what gold? Like, gold's only worth something because people think it's worth something. It's the same problem. Yeah. No matter what you're talking about. So it's just like, what does everybody agree that we're going to say is money? And we've agreed that some teenager printing it in his bedroom isn't money. No. And that's why somebody gets arrested in this movie.
Right. Indeed. This is a rather minimalist movie. It did win the director's prize at the Cannes Film Festival in 1983. I mean, Bresson's a pretty legendary director, and this was his last film. This is what he went out on. But he's also directed some acclaimed movies like Pickpocket and Alcazar Balthazar. But yeah, you know, Bresson viewed this as a commentary on society's moral and spiritual decay, which I guess I get that. But again, it assumes that we understand and appreciate the value of money as we've been told to, which I think is, you know, a questionable premise.
Yes.
But yeah, nevertheless, I think this does end up telling a pretty interesting story and a sad one for the guy who gets caught up in this. But yeah, you know, the general consensus when this was released was that it was a profound exploration of morality and the corrupting influence of money. Critics loved this. Audiences at the time did too. It has a 4.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I have this at a 3-star rating, which, you know, maybe it'll grow in the future, but
That's where I have it too.
yeah, 3 stars feels right for right now. Dana Danger had a review that I appreciated. She said, "Of course, it's some dipshit little rich kids that started this all."
It is.
It is. Yeah.
They could have just,
Yeah.
twats.
Kids who didn't need money, who made it for themselves and then ruined somebody's life.
They already have more money than other people. My dad wouldn't give it to me, right? Isn't that like the thing?
Yeah, exactly. So,
Dipshits.
L'Argent, going on the shelf is my second choice for money.
Okay, I'm going to take us to 1972. The movie is Across 110th Street. This is in the Press Your Luck section of the store.
Okay.
No whammies. Here's the back of the box. In a daring robbery, some $300,000 is taken from the Italian mob. Several mafiosi are killed, as are 2 policemen. Lieutenant Pope and Captain Matelli are 2 New York City cops trying to break the case. 3 small-time criminals are on the run with the money. Will the mafia catch them first, or will the police?
Who knows?
Question. Tagline, if you steal $300,000 from the mob, it's not robbery, it's suicide. That's good.
I like that. That's got my curiosity piqued.
So this is a 70s crime movie starring Yaphet Kotto and Anthony Quinn as 2 detectives trying to track down these guys who stole the money from the gangsters.
When have we seen Yaphet Kotto before?
He was on the shelf in Running Man.
Yes, that's what it was.
Of course, he's from Homicide: Life on the Streets. That's where I know him from.
Sure.
I grew up with that.
Yeah, so Running Man.
So instead of getting out of the city immediately, these crooks, they hang around a while so the cops can find them. So the cops are trying to find them before the gangsters do.
Right.
And then these 2 detectives are just butting heads the whole time over race, age, seniority, professionalism.
Yeah.
Quinn is an old school cop who sees like no problem in like, you know, roughing people up if it makes his job easier.
Sure.
Kotto is like the young upstart who like does things by the book.
Yeah.
And also the NYPD is, you know, first of all, they put Kotto in charge because this crime took place in Harlem and he's black. And so we want to make him like the face of it. But they're also trying to push Quinn out because he's old. He's just like an old time. He's 55, which is like washed up, I guess.
Right. You're done.
Especially in the 70s. They're like, you're fucking done.
Yeah.
Like,
You should probably be dead.
yeah. You've been smoking 8 packs a day. Barry Shearer, he has a small filmography. He's the director of this.
Okay.
It seems like mostly TV movies. He did a movie called Wild in the Streets, which is kind of a cult classic. But otherwise, I think he mostly worked in TV. And there are two notable entries on his filmography. He did the TV movie Night Gallery, which turned into the series, which was created by Rod Serling after he left The Twilight Zone.
Interesting.
But the TV movie, the pilot episode of that, essentially, another director on that, which was an anthology, was Steven Spielberg.
You're kidding.
Not kidding.
Wow.
But another thing he directed was he did the TV movie that served as the pilot episode for Starsky and Hutch. So this guy has a foothold in television history.
Yeah.
But I just like the style of this movie. It's like it's grimy, it's dirty.
Yeah, there's some grit.
There's a little bit of a TV movie quality to it. It's like a little bit of a 70s cop show procedural feel to it, mixed with a blaxploitation movie.
Yeah.
It's shot in Harlem in the 70s, which is like not something you can recreate.
Well, yeah. I mean, every time that we bring a movie to the shelf that takes place in New York, I think from the 80s earlier,
yes,
it's like night and day compared to what we're used to.
Yeah,
it's a completely different world.
City. It's completely different.
Yeah.
But one thing we see a lot of in Across 110th Street is cash.
Yeah.
The thieves steal a big pile of drug money. And what really struck me about the money in this movie is it seems like it's mostly $10 bills. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
And I was like, what? Why would that be the case?
Right.
You know, because I figured it's got to be a common amount for a drug deal back then.
Yeah.
I looked it up. It's about $75 today. So, like, I don't know what $75 worth of, like, crack or heroin or cocaine or weed, whatever it is. But, like, I guess that was, like, a common amount.
Interesting.
Because I guess, dime bags back in the day must have been, like, a lot more weed than it is now. You know what I mean?
Must have been, yeah.
But, like, I've always thought $10 bills are the most useless bill.
Yeah.
Like, I never liked them. We don't need them. We're fine with 1, 5, 20, hundreds. That's all we need.
Yeah. It comprises part of the cost of whatever you're buying. Yeah. But not all of it.
I'll carry 2 5s. You know, I don't need
yeah.
a bunch of them. I don't need, like, 35s. I'll carry a couple extra 5s. Otherwise, give me 20s.
Yeah.
And dimes are useless too. That's another. It's in my craw. Yeah. Why are we wasting our time with this money?
So yeah, things that are a denomination of 10, you would just rather do away with.
It seems like we don't need them.
No,
we have
agree.
5s. We have 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, not that anybody uses cash for anything anymore, but
no.
But also the another reason to love this movie is the title song from Bobby Womack, which is like an all timer, no doubter.
Well, when Bobby Womack's on board, you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah. But like it was originally, this song was originally recorded for this movie.
Is that right?
And it was also used in Jackie Brown and American Gangster. So it has some cinematic history. And like Jackie Brown was definitely the first time I heard this song. Mm-hmm. But it's in constant rotation in my playlist.
Nice.
It's just an all-time great song.
I didn't know that this is what it was for.
Yeah, it's where it's not about the movie. Like the lyrics are about something completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wrote the song for the movie.
That's great.
So Across 110th Street is at a 3.7 overall on Letterboxd, and 12 users have it in their 4 favorites.
Okay.
Probably not a movie people like watch that often. I had only heard about it until a couple years ago.
I had never heard of this until you plucked it for the shelf.
35% agree with my 4-star rating, including Klon, who says, lots of cops get killed in this one, and some kids throw a water balloon on one, so ACAB, I guess.
Yeah, this was good. This is a 3-star movie for me that will probably become a 4-star movie. I need to spend more time with it again in the future. But I like this era of New York. I like movies that live in this city and this time period. And yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
It's bleak, it's gritty, 70s New York crime dramas always go down easy for me.
Yes.
So I'm putting this up on the shelf this week for money.
Fine choice. All right, I'm going to round this out with another movie that deals in people stealing who have no experience stealing. And my final choice for our topic of money is Logan Lucky from 2017. Let me give you the back of the box here. Desperate for a big score, brothers Jimmy and Clyde Logan team up to pull off a daring heist during one of the largest NASCAR races of the year. With an unconventional team of amateur criminals and a meticulous plan, they set out to rob millions from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. But as the stakes rise, so does the question of whether this underdog crew has what it takes to get away with it. This is one of my favorite taglines in a while, at least of movies that I brought to the shelf. And the tagline is, "See how the other half steals." Which I think is great. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna give. I'm not gonna put it like. I'm not gonna make it like A+. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Maybe an A-. For me, it's an A-.
I'm gonna think about it for a little bit.
Okay. Well, this is directed by Steven Soderbergh, and it just feels like he's having fun. Mm-hmm. And, Soderbergh is no stranger to heist movies. I mean, do you think? he did the Ocean's movies.
I mean, the Ocean's 11 is a definitive heist movie. It changed heist movies forever.
Yeah, right. And this is at the complete opposite end of the spectrum from the Ocean's movies, just in terms of the cast of characters who are stealing and how they go about doing it. But, I think that Steven Soderbergh just wanted to go in and play and cast some unexpected people in roles here who all knock it out of the park for different reasons. I mean, just to touch quickly on the cast, we've got Channing Tatum as Jimmy Logan. His brother Clyde Logan is played by Adam Driver. Daniel Craig plays a character named Joe Bang. Riley Keough is here. Katie Holmes is here. It's just awesome. And then there's also a lot of like crazy weird cameos. There's like actual NASCAR drivers that show up, and a bunch of. There's just a lot of fun that's being had. But in addition to these people, just to quickly touch on the premise here, the Logan brothers are down on their. Maybe down on their luck is the wrong way to put it, but they
have
are
a reputation for things not going their way.
And one of them, Adam Driver's character, has one arm. And Channing Tatum's character works at a construction job he gets kicked off of. They're not wealthy people. They have
bad luck.
Yeah, they have bad luck, and they're not great at making ends meet. So, this is, again, a movie about, a heist taking place for people who need this money because they're a little hard up.
Yeah.
And so the motivations are a little different than professional thieves. But yeah, this heist is pretty wacky.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's even remotely connected to reality in terms of how money at something like a giant NASCAR event is kept.
I mean, do you know that?
I don't know it for sure. And
nowadays there's not nearly as much cash floating around in places like that.
Right.
But like back in the day when no one was using credit cards and stuff, I don't know. Maybe that's how they do it. I don't know. I don't know enough to like call bullshit on it.
Yeah. For the uninitiated, the gist of this is that there is some construction work happening around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Channing Tatum's character was on that crew. He knows what's going on and has access to basically the depths underneath the speedway. And that happens to be where there is a vault just full of loose cash that is funneled in from the speedway by
vacuumed up from every vendor. Yeah.
Yeah, like those drive-through bank machines where you put money in a tube and it gets sucked up.
That could very well be how it works. I don't know.
It could be how it works.
I really hope it is. I really hope it is.
Yeah. And they come up with an elaborate scheme that not only involves getting this money out, but also breaking the guy out of jail, Joe Bang, who is going to help them with their explosive needs when it comes to this heist. And much like Knives Out and that series of movies, we get Daniel Craig again doing a Southern accent, which just give me more of those movies.
Yes.
Like he's so entertaining when he does this. I love the interesting. I feel like every character here is a bit of a caricature, and it's fun.
It's another movie that kind of takes its time a little bit, but not in the plot sense, but more just like every scene is just like they're just lingering. They're
They're
taking
lingering.
their time.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking slow.
This is as much about the characters as it is about the heist itself. Soderbergh described this as an anti-glamorous heist movie where the characters' blue-collar backgrounds influence their approach and motivations. So, he's definitely trying to make us. He's trying to endear us to the people who are committing this crime. And as we mentioned at the top, you can't help but to root for these guys and want them to succeed in stealing this money. And of course, the crime is investigated. Eventually, the motor speedway couldn't care less about what happened because they get insurance money for what was taken. But
another deeper part of the scam.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, the idea that the film emphasizes everyday thieves is something that really attracted me to this. And I don't know, I've watched this several times now, and I won't turn down an opportunity to go back to it because it's funny in addition to being a pretty compelling heist story. It's definitely one where you find yourself trying to figure out how these guys are going to do this along the way. It's not like their plan is laid out clearly at the beginning, and so you're definitely piecing it together as the movie unfolds, and that's always fun.
It's also a movie that takes a minute to figure out, like, what am I watching here?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just has like a pace to it that is unfamiliar because you're like, oh yeah, Soderbergh heist movie.
Yeah.
Here comes Ocean's 11, and it's not that at all.
Well, it's funny because there is a moment in this movie where you catch a snippet from a news broadcast where the heist, after it's taken place, is referred to as Ocean's 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, does this take place in the same universe as Ocean's 11?
Yes.
For that to...
It has to, right?
It has to. Yeah. Which I love.
Well, yeah, then again, Ocean's 11 was maybe they're talking about the old one?
They could be. Yeah.
Would anybody know what that was in the year of
Probably
2000,
not.
whatever? Probably not. So I think Soderbergh's Ocean's 11 does exist.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is that this is just a nice glimpse of Americana in a rural part of the country that you don't often see. And, these people and their way of life makes for good storytelling. And I think it contributes to why you find yourself rooting for this group of thieves. So I find it very entertaining. This is a 4-star movie for me right now, but I could see it definitely growing into a 5-star movie in the future. I don't get tired of this one.
It's pretty good. This is my first watch. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, first time I've seen it.
Oh, where did you land on it?
I gave it 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Steven Soderbergh is just kind of a master at his craft. And I know that he retires, he unretires, and he does some weird stuff, but...
I mean, the guy's made like 30-plus feature films, I think, at this point.
Yeah. And a lot of the recent ones are like self-funded. Like he's just...
Oh, yeah. It takes like 3 weeks to make a movie.
Yeah. He's just doing what he wants. And I think when a director enters that stage of his career, whether or not many can, it ends up with giving us something that makes for a good watch.
Definitely.
This grossed $48.5 million against a $29 million budget. Critics really liked it. Audiences did too. This is a 3.5 out of 5 right now on Letterboxd. Like I said, 4 stars for me. And the user Illy said something, had an observation that I kind of touched on where she pointed out, I have nothing but love for the Daniel Craig with a Southern accent cinematic universe. So just give us more of them.
Same universe.
Yeah, he clearly enjoys it. All right, Rob, I have to believe the store is going to be rolling in dough after tonight's episode.
I mean, more than we already are?
More than we already are, yeah.
Who's going to take all this to the bank? I don't know.
That's a good question. And how are we going to make change for those who need it?
We'll have to rent a truck.
Right. We came up with 6 films. The deal in money, and the movies we chose are The Beekeeper, Dumb Money, Set It Off, L'Argent, Across 110th Street, and Logan Lucky.
Find us on the internet at rewindvideopod.com, or you can look us up on Letterboxd or Blue Sky if you use those platforms.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like, share, and review the show. It actually helps other people find it.
It does. And, you know, we're running a staff recommendation shelf. We want to recommend it to more people.
Yes.
So
Recommend the shelf. We recommend movies. That's how this works.
it is, yeah. We're all in it for the recommendations. So, Rob, after this, we're moving off of money and switching our focus to rules. We're not ones to necessarily follow rules.
No, we're not. We're outlaws, baby.
But we do want to spend some time focusing on movies where rules are part of the story. So that's on deck for our next theme. And we will have, as always, have 6 movies to recommend. In the meantime, feel free to hit us up for a movie to watch, and we will see you next time.
Be kind, recommend.